And we're back with some more Starsector. And today, bounty hunting. Killing people for fun and profit. So it was pointed out to me I haven't really covered the combat in that much detail. I was still trying to wrap my head around it as well, so I didn't want to explain it in too much detail and explain it horrifically, I suppose. So what we've got here is two ships that are going to start trading fire. Now this thing here has just fired a shot, and you can see that its flux has gone up. Now flux is both shielding and your ammunition. So if people shoot you a lot, your flux is going to go up every time it impacts on your shields. And if your flux maxes out, well, you can't absorb any more damage. Well, you're going to overflux, but we'll get into that later. But also, you can be able to shoot your guns. Your guns, not your missiles, your guns now, all require flux to fire. So every time this guy fires a shot, you'll see a spike in flux. Yeah, well, okay, the missiles are also going to have... Ah, yes. But you can see every time they fire a shot, that flux just spikes up just a little bit every time they take a hit. Now that right there is them venting, that blue stuff coming out around them. You can think of flux like heat, basically. If you take damage on your shield, it generates heat. If you fire your gun, it generates heat. In this game, it's just called flux. And once your heat gets too hot, your equipment will overload, and then you'll flux out. And you can see this one over here, this ship that we've been shooting at, its flux is, it's only about halfway up, but you'll see there's that little line on it. That line at the top, that line is very important. That means that's hard flux. Hard flux can only be gotten rid of by dropping your shields. For example... this person down here, you can see they only have soft flux. The hard flux line is all the way at the bottom. That's because they're being shot by beam weapons. Beam weapons don't do hard flux. They basically want to make beam weapons weaker because beam weapons might be overpowered otherwise. Ballistic weapons, like the one this guy is armed with, do generate hard flux. So every time you see an impact on the shields, you can see the flux go up by a hard flux amount. And you're wondering, why is that ship's flux not going up because of the beam weapon it's firing? Well, it's because it's actually... it's got a built-in flux capacitor type thing, and they basically get rid of flux. So long as it doesn't have any hard flux, it can still get rid of flux while its shields are raised. Same with this ship down here. So these two ships, what they sort of end up doing is dipping into each other's ranges, firing some shots, and then when their flux gets too high, they back out. See? They're running away. And then once they get out of each other's radius, that one vents. And this one over here... wait, what are you doing? Yep, they've basically lowered their shield. They're not actually just doing an active vent. Active venting is faster, but they've just lowered their shield because they're faster than the other ship. They figured they can just do it. Now, they've got vented enough flux, they decided, hey, let's get back into range and start firing. And here they come again, and this is basically the very basics of combat. There's a whole bunch more stacked on top of it, but normally what happens is two ships dip into range of each other, start firing, one of the ships starts overfluxing, and it backs out. Then, once it's backed out far enough, it vents its flux and comes back in for another round. Now, just imagine you have 10 ships on each side. What will normally happen is a few ships will come in, they'll rotate to the front, start firing, and then once they start to overflux because of all the damage, they'll rotate to the back to vent, while new ships come up to the front to absorb damage and fire off shots. The most important thing to remember, though, is flux is both your ammunition and it's your health. You need to get, if your flux is high, you can't shoot back, and then if you can't shoot back, they're not going to be generating any flux except what their weapons are doing, and they're just going to pour firepower down on top of you until you're dead. For our next simulation, we're going to throw in missiles into the mix. Now, ships only fire missiles in two circumstances. One, if they're just constant barrage missiles that they're supposed to fire all the time, or two, they're desperate. The third option is they actually have anti-shield missiles, in which case they will use those pretty regularly. This ship is trying to fire off its anti-shield missiles. There we go. And they do quite a lot of damage against shields, but that ship dropped its shields to reduce the effectiveness of the missiles. Now, this ship has basically fired off those 3 missiles, and it's left with no missiles in that slot. So you've basically wasted points on missiles that didn't actually kill the enemy. But if you can get them to hit, missiles can be sort of the one-shot hit that can smash an enemy early on. However, they're sort of only good for rapid bursts, because once they're out of ammunition, you've usually crippled yourself. Right now, these ships are basically trying to slowly chase each other down, and the longer range one is just slowly grinding down the other one. But, oh, they messed up. Now you see here what happened was they got shot back at and their shield overfluxed. They kept their shield up too much. The damage they hit caused them to overflux, and they've got that blue lightning stuff going over them. That means they can now no longer shoot, and they can't raise their shields. They can't vent flux. It just will slowly go down by itself until they get down to a point where they're active again. So this ship has sensed the opportunity, and it has fired an anti-armor missile. Now, anti-armor missiles do more damage against armor, and... oh, actually... that's the anti-armor missile or the anti-engine? Never mind. And now it's back up and running again. It's finally recovered. And we're back to fighting the good old-fashioned way where they hammer each other. But now let's show you a slightly different form of missile combat. What we have here is a pressure missile ship, or a pressure missile. It basically fires a stream of rockets that basically keep the other ship from ever lowering its shields. It stops them from dropping their shields and getting rid of their flux. These type of pressure ships are really annoying to deal with because the AI doesn't know what to do. See, right there? It should be dropping its shields at some point and venting, but now it's maxed out. It can't shoot back, it hasn't got enough flux left for anything, and it's just going to sit there and get pounded into oblivion. Yep. It's constantly getting missiles thrown at it and constantly getting in range of other guns, so it just can't vent, and now it's just going to die. Slowly but surely. Desperation missiles. And yeah, they did nothing. So yeah, that's missiles for you. They can really add an awful lot to a ship, or they can be absolutely useless. It depends how well you use them. For our next simulation, we have this ship. It's basically a long-range weapons platform with a few close-range weapons and some anti-missiles built in. But it's going to be going up against basically a combination of all the things we've seen so far with a little twist. It's very much a closer-range weapon systems, so it likes to get in close and unload its damage. This one's more long-range, so it likes to stay at range and do things. But it has a little trick up its sleeve, as well as those pressure missiles. Right now, it's about getting ready to vent. Do it. Oh, no. It's activated its special. Its engines there have flared up. This allows it to close the distance really quickly with an enemy that's trying to gain distance, like this long-range weapons platform. And when it does, well, it will unload all its weapons if it had been facing the right direction when it did so. And then we should see its engines go again. Yep. The ship's right in front of it, and it unloads an absolutely enormous amount of carnage. This ship just has not had a chance to vent yet. It's firing almost consistently, but it just can't keep up. This one just keeps hitting it and hitting it and hitting it. And this is sort of the bane of your long-range ships. These ships are designed to get in close, hit you hard, then they can back off, vent, and then boom, suddenly they're up in your face again before you even have a chance. While their missiles constantly rain down on you. That thing hasn't stopped firing missiles since the start of this. The only reason this thing's still alive is that it has a ridiculous amount of armor. It is just a plank of titanium in space. Anyway, yeah, this ship is dead. But this is just an example of basically taking a burn drive, which is built into the ship's hull, using that to move you forward, and that allows the ship to add an extra layer on top of the missiles and the guns. So let's take this ship, but let's make a bunch of changes. For example, we're going to stick on some heavy armor. This heavy armor makes the ship even tougher, which was one of the things it was really good at before. As well as that, there's this integrated targeting unit. It's a hull mod you can stick in. It increases the range of your weapons. So in this instance, it's going to increase them by 40% because of the size of the hull. It's all about your hull sizes and things. No need to get into too much details. We're just going to go over the basics. So all of these weapons now have a 40% range bonus, and these weapons are all long-range weapons. They're all about 1,000 range or so. These front railguns, they're more close-range weapons and for shooting down fighters and things like that. Then, on top of that, we've got this pilot. And this pilot has 6 skills attached to them. Now, actually, let's go in here and have a look at the pilots. First one we're going to look at is ballistics. This one increases the damage and range of the ballistic weapons. So the ballistic weapons do more damage and have more range. This makes the weapons more powerful and just longer ranged and better. The next one we're going to look at is gunnery implants. This one gives plus 15% of the ballistic and energy weapons range. That's an extra 25% on top of the 40% we're already getting from the inbuilt mod. So lots more range on the weapon, which is great. As well as that, system expertise gives us a boost that I'll cover in a bit, but basically the charges on the ship regenerate 50% faster, or the special ability on the ship we're using regenerates 50% faster. Then we've got, target analysis. Increase the damage versus 10% versus destroyers, 15% versus cruisers, 20% versus capital ships. This means we just do more damage against all ships in general. And then for defense, we've got impact mitigation, which means minus 25% armor damage taken. Even if our shields do go down, armor should just soak a whole bunch more damage than normal. And then finally, polarized armor. Maximum damage reduction by armor increased from 85% to 90%. Okay, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Basically, the armor gets an awful lot tougher. And let's take this exact same ship and put it in this ship with it's the exact same ship, exact same weapons loadout, just different pilot and one extra thing, which is the extra armor. And if we put this ship into the exact same scenario, let's see what happens. You'll notice that this sort of radius is actually much longer. This thing can shoot from a much further distance, which means it's harder for the ship to run in, dash in, and get to it. Its engine just doesn't have the speed. So it's trying to get in close, and this thing is just unloading. The problem is, while it wants to dash in, its flux is now too high. This ship is able to output enough damage to slowly drive up to the point where it can't. Come on. It's trying to get in range again, but it can't. This ship is fluxed. This ship is basically doing the whole, I'm going to grind you down from a distance. This ship tries to get close enough to attack it. Unfortunately, it generates so much flux on the way in it can't. Then it tries to retreat back out. the engagement envelope of this other ship is so large, it can't get deep enough inside it to do damage before its flux is almost maxed out. And this is sort of the joy and horror of having both your shields and your ammunition being tied into, well, the same resource. You notice it's getting in close, but its flux is now maxed and it has to start retreating. And if it does it fast, no, it's trying to get in again. And it can't quite do it. There we go. Now it's got its chance. If it could just turn around and get back in again. No, too far away. And this ship is slowly leaving its flux. As you see there, the hard flux is going down once its shields go down, and now it's doing an actual proper vent. And with just the right pilots and the right weapons and the right mods, you can turn a ship that was useless and would lose every engagement against any other ship class into something that's actually solid. I mean, the ship's actually better, though. One last thing about this ship that's good is, you'll notice down there in the bottom left, there's this thing called the Accelerated Ammo Feeder. And there's a little bar beside it. That's basically a little built-in hull mod for this ship that, when it's activated, it increases the rate of fire of all its ballistic weaponry by 50%. One of the skills on the captain that we went over, it actually increases the recharge rate of that by 50%. So this thing just has a nice little built-in boost that allows its long-range weaponry to do an awful lot of damage and fire really quick and just grind things down. So this is that exact same ship versus a Conquest. A Conquest is a ship that's worth about twice as much. See, one thing that's very important when it comes to ships is their deployment costs, otherwise referred to as DP. Deployment cost is how much it costs you to deploy these ships into battle, because there's a limit to how much deployment points you can bring into a fight. We'll cover more on that in a bit. But that means this ship here is twice as expensive. In other words, you would need you could bring only one of these in, while you could bring in 2 of these ships in exchange. And we're just going to let the 2 of these duke it out and see how they go. This ship does not have a pilot. This one does, and it has it's a custom-built ship. That enemy ship held out really well. It was actually pressuring this one a lot until it ran out of missiles. This thing is a titanium plank in space. It has an incredible amount of armor, and it just grinds things away from a distance. And this is my preferred ship for bounty hunting. If you want to know the specs on these ships, it's quite simple. We've got 2 heavy maulers, 1 hypervelocity driver, 3 railguns, and all the rest are Vulcan cannons. There are 5 missile slots here, however we don't use them. The reason being, we kind of want the flux. Up here is your vents. This is how much flux dissipation you have. So the base flux dissipation of this ship is terrible. It's not wonderful. However, that can be greatly increased by pumping up the amount of vents on it. And once we've got enough vents on it, we're getting actually 756 flux, which this is, remember, both your ammunition and your shielding, so it's quite important. The only reason we've got solar shielding on it is it helps against beam weapons and getting struck by lightning when you're flying around space, which is just a very common hazard. One other thing we'll be covering, but this will be a little bit later, will be the Conquest. We have a couple of Conquests we bring along, namely for the missiles. Honestly, it's just for the missiles. The disturbing thing is, this is actually pretty much the exact same as this in many ways. It's just sort of a long-range support platform. It just does a little bit more damage, but it's far squishier. This giant ship, which is bigger and more expensive than this one, actually has less armor, only slightly more hull, but it has an awful lot more flux dissipation and flux capacity. It's sort of not quite a glass cannon, but more of a mobile weapons platform. It's not meant for slugging. This is what we use to get some early kills and thin the herd at the start of the fight. But let's go do a little bit of bounty hunting first, and I'll show you what I mean. Alright, we are about to take on this fleet over here. They're not too bad, to be honest. They're mostly heavy cruiser related. If we check them up under intel, you'll notice they're worth about 200 grand. And they've got, like, pretty much heavy cruisers. That's all they've got, and most of them are trash. They've got an Atlas Mark II, which is technically a capital ship, but don't think of it that way. It's a heavy cruiser with tinfoil armor. Incredibly slow, low levels of flux, just lots of ballistic slots. It's got lots of weapons. Problem is, it just doesn't have a lot of anything else to go with it. It can still be good. Never mind. Anyway, when we're going in here, there's a few things to be aware of. When you first start out, you're going to end up outnumbered a whole bunch, and you won't know why. The reason is, you need a bunch of captains. See these captains here? They add to our deployment points. If you want to bring more ships into combat, you need more captains. Whether or not those captains actually get deployed into combat doesn't matter. It's just the number of captains you have and how high level they are. And because of that reason, I would heavily suggest that you invest in a few skills, namely officer training, +1 to the maximum level of officers under your command, and officer management, +2 to the maximum number of officers you're able to command. So this is where you're able to hire 10 officers and get them an extra level higher, so you can have more deployment points. To do that, actually, let's do a quick bit of save scumming to demonstrate something. I am going to dismiss all of our officers, every single last one of them, and then I'm going to reload the game. Then with the officers dismissed, we go and engage in the fight. Hit engage, hit continue, and we have 150 deployment points available to us. Namely because the enemy doesn't really have a lot of ships. But that's fine. But let's go back and add our captains back in. After hiring all of the captains back, there we go, or not hiring, just reloading the save, coming back in here, moving into engage, you can check we now have 180 deployment points. If you're not getting the full 180, either A, you don't have enough captains, or B, your enemy just is so large they've got way too many captains. For this fight, we are just going to be deploying nothing but Eradicators. We're going to leave out the capital ships. Because early on, I usually hunt with just the Eradicators for some of the smaller bounties, up until about 200 grand. Once you start going above 200 grand, we're going to want to start bringing in something with a little bit more punch to it. But for now, let's just set up a line. So all we've done is we've grabbed these two here, and we've sent them up to that point, and we're basically just forming a line. We just don't want to get surrounded in a bubble and then get crushed in upon. We just want a nice flat line, and then what we're going to do is rearrange it as the time goes by. Now, we have 8 command points. Those command points are not so much orders as in batches of orders. If you ever want to place more orders, do multiple ones at a time. As in, pause the game and then place your orders immediately, and you'll have a sort of a time window to place orders in as many as you like. And, okay, here comes the first one over there. I'm just trying to see which side they come from. They usually come from the right-hand side, but let's double check. As you can see, that ship has come in range of these ships, so they're going out to have a bit of a word. Come on, where's the rest of the fleet? Oh, there they are. The fleet's on the left-hand side. Perfect. So all we'll do is we'll just rotate these guys around. Now, as you'll notice, command frequency is now open. Until that command frequency window closes, we can keep placing orders. So you can go over there. And then we let it go. Now, so long as that command frequency is still open, actually, let's get rid of those old waypoints. It just otherwise it clutters up the screen. You can make waypoints and tell ships to go to them. And until that is closed, we could keep issuing as many commands as we want. And now, yeah, now it costs us another command point to change orders. Let's have a quick look in here. 1 second. Autopilot enabled. Yeah, I want to make sure my ship is actually fighting still normally. As you can see, these things are going to take a bunch of damage, but they're just incredibly tanky. Whew. Eventually got through the armor on that one. Alright, and then they just keep shooting back and forth. Well, that's it. You just form a line and start pounding away. Come on. Come on. Stop fluxing. I don't want you dying on me. The great thing is, even if it does die, the ships are incredibly cheap to buy and replace. You can buy them from the Luddic Church. Luddic Church are the only people that stock them. These ones have the ammo feeders. You can buy them from the pirates, but those ones have burn drives in them, which is not nearly as good. You want the ammo feeders because it ups the damage so incredibly for what you get. How are we looking? Yeah, we're sort of formed a line, and we're just chewing through them slowly but surely. Up in the top left, you can see all the ships that are going down. There's nothing actually down yet much. Oh, and I've installed a mod that allows me to speed up combat by 2. Otherwise, it takes too long to do these fights. Oh, there's the Atlas. Yep, and like I said, those things are made of tinfoil. Oh, god damn it. I hate when they do this. There's one around the back here that's being annoying. I'll have you go and hunt that down. It's just sometimes these come in and start distracting from the rear, and it pulls these ships back, which leaves these one in the weak middle, or the ones here in the middle with a weak flank. So sometimes when these ships comes in from the side, I like to send one ship off just to hunt them down and drive them back. No matter if it kills them, just as long as it drives them back so that they're not harassing these ones. And actually, if it gets in the kill, that would be even better. Where are you going? Dead. Perfect. Now, if you've given an order to a ship and it completes the order, it will then just keep going on with what it was doing. Or it'll basically go around and go back to its own AI programming, which means it'll just start running around the place. Over here seems to be where the action is hottest, and yeah, damn it. That ship over, where is it? Yeah, there. We're pounding on a few of those frigates. You're basically just chewing through the last of what's left. I think this is pretty much all over. Yeah, you know what? Full assault. Let's get this done with. One downside of the Eradicators, not that fast. You're not going to be running down enemy ships. But on the bright side, you're almost impossible to kill, so who cares? After hunting down the bounty, you'll get this screen. This is how many of them survived, as in they ran away from the fight, and this is how many of them you destroyed. If you lost any ships, it'll show you up here. We didn't lose anything, though. I think that one got some heavy scratches on it, more than it's just its paint. But that's okay. What we can do now is we can pursue the fleeing ones if you want. It's not really worth it, to be honest, but I usually send in my second in command, so say you 4 go hunt them down. Even though they're not actually fast enough to do it, they'll still usually kill just about everything. If you have to go in and do it yourself, you probably won't do it because your ships will be too slow and they'll run away from you. Okay, if you want to consider ship recovery, you can then go and salvage a bunch of these ships. Now, do bear in mind, this is if it's an Eradicator P, that's not one of the ones you want. that thing comes with a burn drive. The burn drive is not the one you want, so do be aware of that. Picture the wreckage, and usually you get enough supplies out of this to pay for a bunch of the stuff you lost, and then immediately hit the scavenge button afterwards because they leave behind another bunch of scrap that you can get. And then between selling all the weapons and things, that's usually another 30 to 80 grand depending on the size of the bounty. Oh, yeah, we just made 200 grand right there. And we gained 310,000 experience for our character. Good times. This next fight is going to be more of a tough one. This here is worth 360 grand. And they've got 2 conquests, a whole bunch of these Dominator heavy class support cruisers, some Griffins, a whole bunch of stuff. And yeah, they're pretty nasty. So we're going to be bringing in our capital ships here to help out. Now, if we move into engage, we can see we've got 180 deployment points again. And what we'll do is this. Deploying nothing but 2 capital ships and a whole bunch of cruisers. Now do remember, if you're not deployed, you don't get experience. Alright, we'll deploy the lot of them, and it's very simple. Normally what I do is I stick these 2 up front. And then what we do is we have you 2 follow that one, you 2 follow that one. Actually, you can follow that one, and we'll have instead that one go over there and grab that comm relay. We don't need the comm relay, but I like to send them off on their way. Alright, then we just let them go up and take positions. So these comm relays, they're not actually necessary for us, to be honest. We don't need them because we've got enough deployment points, it doesn't really matter. And now you'll see the missiles in action. They pretty much... The great thing about these is they don't need to run people down when you've got these missile boats along. Their job is just thin out the weaker stuff and pound stuff from a distance. It stops them from running away. The whole point of the other ship types, as in these ones, their whole reason for existence is to soak damage and just generally be impossibly difficult to kill. That's their whole purpose, their whole reason for existence. They grind stuff down. The 2 capital ships in the middle, their whole purpose for existence is to rapidly and efficiently kill medium to large sized ships. They just pound on all the damage as quick as possible. The only reason we don't go with all of them, in fact I'm not even sure why we don't just go with all of those ships, but they are kind of expensive to float around the place, and at the same time they can run out of missiles. I'll go in a little bit more detail to how we configure those in a bit and how we configure the captains, but as you can see here, they've already half-trashed this opposing unit. Namely because there's just so much missiles coming its way. If they just didn't get distracted by all this other stuff. Alright, let's speed this along a bit, shall we? Now, I can't double time it while we're on map, so yeah, I suppose we'll have to do this the slow way. As you can see, the missiles are just pouring in all the time and crushing everything. And that's a lot of dead ships very quickly. Yeah, dead. That other one's dead. And the one at the rear? Nope. Made it alive. Okay, there should be one more wave of reinforcements. Actually, let's just do a full assault. There's nothing left that can slow us down, I think, at this point. And then we'll probably have to go find one of the more dangerous fights. That is a nice amount of loot for wiping them out. We get 542 supplies, which will more than pay for a bunch of stuff. The fuel probably won't cover all our costs here and back, but once we sell all these weapons, yeah, I think that'll pay for itself. Now, the moment you kill them, quick bit of salvage as well. You know, I don't want that ship. Begin salvage, and we get a whole bunch more stuff as well. That wasn't actually an awful lot. Alright, with all of that done, time to move on to plan 3. While you're out here, whatever sector you stop off in, keep an eye out for a stable location anywhere you stop to take on a bounty. And then what you want to do is put in a comm relay. To construct a comm relay, you're going to need 100 metal. You can pick that up from killing people. And the transplutonics, though, they're a little bit rare. Keep about 100 transplutonics on you. And then put down yourself a comms relay, and what you can do is you can get fresh intel on what bounties are available. Just a handy way to keep up to speed. Ooh, there's another bounty. 54 grand? No, thank you. For this next bounty, I'll just show how you find the ones you're looking for and how you get them to them really quickly. Basically, it gives you a description, and it's nearly always only gives you one location you can find them. So she's rumored to be heading near a toxic world in a binary star system in the Darien constellation. Then you hit show on map. This will be the Darien constellation. It's a binary star system, which means there's 2 suns in it. Well, from what I can see, there's no 2 sun systems here, but there is a sun and a black hole, which I presume is the binary system it means, and that yellow planet is definitely toxic. So this would appear to be the location they're at. Then once we've chopped that in, we can see it's going to take us 1,400 fuel to get there. That's going to be a bit of a journey. How far is it to the wormhole? Yeah, we'll just let that happen. How long will that going to take? It now tells us it's going to take us 13 days to get there, and according to our intel, there's 13 days remaining. Let's just jump now. Hopefully we can catch a few lightning storms along the way to boost us. Oh, I should probably go over the speed boost as well later. You set up. And off we go. Alright, according to Intel... God damn it, we missed it. On the bright side, though, a new bounty has shown up. They're actually hiding near a barren world in the Pendra system, which... Well, that's the system we're already in. So... there's a barren world over there. I'm going to go over and have a quick look before we go on to something a little bit more difficult. Would you look at that? It's 200 grand just flying straight towards us. Oh my god, that's so weak sauce. Hold on a moment. Alright, I swear I'm going to get onto one of the harder ones in a minute. It's just, well, we stuck down a comm relay, and then you'll never believe it, but yes, we successfully wiped out the 200 grand guy, and then a 300 grand bounty just appeared right beside us the moment we put down the comm relay. I mean, just 1 minute. Well, that was a fun accidental 300 grand that showed up on a doorstep. That's actually an accidental 500,000 we got in these systems. Bounty hunting. It definitely is a good way to make cash fast. Alright, this is just becoming a joke. I just put out another comm relay, and this bounty where we just got 300 grand, right beside it, another one sprung up for 288. Just, a quick go over how you find them again. She's rumored to be hiding out in a desert world in a system with an orange primary star in the Swan Nebula. So orange primary star, desert, Swan, yeah, well, there's one orange star, so that kind of narrows things down a bit. Desert world, yeah, kind of narrows things down a little bit. Actually, there's 2 desert worlds. Whatever, we'll figure it out when we get there. Okay, that takes us from 500,000 to, like, 788 grand. Jesus. Alright, sorry about all the distractions. Went home, sold off about 125 grand of weapons, and now we're here to face off against this. This is probably the worst type of bounty you can come up against. This is worth 369 grand. As far as I'm aware, these are the worst. Maybe there's worse to come, but this is the worst I've seen. Their danger level is only 3. I have no idea how that is. But, the problem with them is they've got all of those nasty, nasty, nasty dreadnoughts right there. So we're going to go in and have a quick word with them. Yeah, those onslaughts, they're really painful to deal with. It's just they're incredibly tough. All right, we're going to move into engage. Let's make sure. Yeah, we got 180 points, so let's just take in the whole team. We could take some minor losses in this one, but yeah, it's stuff that happens. Plan is the same as before. We send the 2 onslaughts, or the 2 champions right up the middle, whatever they call them. The 2 big capital ships go up the middle, the 2 eradicators to the left, with 2 eradicators to the right. We're going to send this one off to grab the comm relay just to deny it for them. Plus, it makes it more even. First contact is on the left, small ship. We just want to see what direction they're coming from so we can put down a line of battle. I'm thinking they're probably going to come from over this side, but you never know. These onslaughts, their job is to just crush all of the early ships. They've got a lot of missiles. We'll go into the builds of them later, but basically they just sit here and they pound things. They pound things down like you would not believe. They are incredibly good at killing things quickly. We'll go through the battle stats at the end for them. They're only sending out their small fry stuff to begin with, which is a bit disappointing. Ah, there's our first onslaught. Yeah, there's no one really targeting just yet, but we are killing off their side trash. Alright, you. Let's see how you're doing. As you can see, it hits hard. Yeah, you don't want to have one of these going up against it alone. And as well as that, some of them come with flak, which makes your missiles almost useless. Thankfully, that one's not one of them. Well, that's the first one down. Where's the rest? We're just going to stay here. Don't bother trying to push forward and secure more territory or anything like that. Just hold your ground and let them come with you. Their reinforcements have to come all the way from over here, and as they slowly dribble in, you eat them. It's like portion control, you know? You eat a little bit at a time. What are you doing? Oh, they're going to go... The great thing about this is they keep trying to run around the back and capture these points. So I just set one of them to capture this point and then let them run wild. They can go off and do their own thing. But it usually results in some ships trying to sneak around the back, and this Eradicator comes and wipes them out at some point. So, yeah, I don't think that light cruiser has much of a chance against this armoured flank. Oh, buddy, you should have started running a while ago. This is just going to be a slow grind down. It really is an embarrassing way to die against these ships. Oh, I think they've got 2 onslaughts. Yep, this is going to make things a little bit more interesting, but honestly, it's pretty much a no-brainer. You just let your ships do their thing. You don't even have to do anything. Oh, 3 of them. That should be interesting. Oh, wait, no, there's the 4th. Excellent. Now things should get really hairy. Oh, yeah, that one overextended just a tad. I don't think you're getting out of here alive. You can't reverse fast enough. That one is on death's door. That one's fine. Where's... Oh, this one is off chasing down a single one of these. Good luck, buddy. It's going to take you a while to wipe one of those out. Actually, full assault. Why not? There's only 3 of them left. That one's almost dead. So, let's just let loose the dogs of war and let them crush everything. If at any point your missile ships run out of missiles, retreat them. If you retreat them, we do have reinforcements that are available, namely 4 more Eradicators. You just grind down whatever is left. Should be no problems, though considering the way these Eradicators are configured, it is highly unlikely you will ever run out of missiles unless the engagement is incredibly prolonged. Another one bites the dust. And... oh my god, did they kill one ship? Wow, we lost an Eradicator. That was unfortunate. Oh well. When it comes to your lost Eradicator, recovery is usually pretty simple. So long as it has a captain, very high chance you can recover it. Or if you've got the skill built in, or the skill that allows you to recover ships more easily, that also ups your chances. So there's very little chance of you ever losing them. If you do, just go down to the Luddic Church and pick a bunch up. They stock them quite regularly. Pop by every so often, pick up 3 or 4, stick them in storage in case you ever need them. Okay, we'll just recover those, pick through the wreckage, and as you can see, we get more than enough supplies to make up for the ones we actually lost. And... oh, yeah, that reminds me, scavenge. So that was worth about 350 grand. I think that was worth it. Now, before I go over the stats on the Conquest, a quick disclaimer. Is this the best bounty hunting build? No. But is it cheap, easy to acquire, with relatively simplistic parts to put together? Yes, that's sort of the point. It's a quick, easy to put together group of ships that can take on pretty much the hardest bounties that show up, making it allow you to grind up large quantities of cash and get experience for all your captains. So, this ship here, how do we configure it? Well, we don't put weapons on one side of it, namely because we don't want to. We want this entire left-hand side to be what's firing, or to the right, whichever you prefer. But the main damage dealers here are the Hurricane MIRV launcher and the Squall MLRS launchers on the front. These 2 are just going to be chucking missiles the whole time. This is very important. Make sure when you go into weapons groups that the 2 of them are linked together. You want them, both of them on the same number groups. We'll go through this some more in a minute, but effectively what this means is if it fires one, it fires the other. Otherwise, it'll only fire the Squall missiles when the shields go down on a ship. That's not what you want. You want these to be firing consistently, and the Hurricane MIRV launcher will be firing all the time. So having the 2 of them linked makes it just far more deadly. You're going to want to put in expanded missile racks. What this does is it increases the ammo capacity of these by 2. So what happens is this has 10 ammo, which is not a lot of ammo. It won't get you by a whole round, but putting in expanded missile racks doubles that to 20. Then your captain is going to be getting themselves missile specialization, which gives plus 100% missile ammo capacity. The reason that's so powerful is it stacks on top of missile racks, as in, instead of getting 20, you get 40 now. So you'll have 40 missiles in your MIRV launcher. You're going to have very, very deep missile pockets. Same for these harpoons. It affects these harpoon missiles as well. These are sort of finisher missiles. These will only fire when a ship fluxes out, usually. When it starts to get that lightning field around it, then it will launch. They also have the exact same range. They have a range of 2,500. These have a range of 2,500. These have a range of 2,500. So all of those 3 missiles are basically the bulk of your damage. You're also going to want the ECCM package. This thing reduces the chances of your missiles getting jammed. It also makes them better, faster, just all-round better missiles. Very important. Shield conversion front locks the shield to the front, and at the same time, it reduces the cost by 50% of how much it costs to raise your shield. For example, the shield currently costs us 240 flux per second. It's like firing a weapon. When you have your shields on, it's costing you resources. When we take that off, you see, it costs us 480 flux a second to raise that shield. Adding this thing in drops that by 240. 240 is crazy, because the thing is, when it comes to venting or flux dissipation, this is the number here of how much flux this ship can dissipate per second every tick. And the thing is, if you add on an extra vent, it gives you 10 extra flux dissipation. So a good way to think about this is, by putting on the shield conversion front, which costs us 18 OP points, or opportunity points, whatever it is, that would normally give us 180 flux if we just invested that directly into vents. But by turning it into a shield conversion, it's now saving us 240. Well, only when the shield is up, of course. But as well as that, it gives us a few extra bonuses. It increases the shield's arc by 100%, which is just perfect, and it also increases how quickly it deploys. So it deploys faster, it's just better all around. Now, it does make them a little more vulnerable on the sides, but as long as you keep a line of battle, that's kind of very minimized. Now, these ships are not designed to be big tanks. They don't have a lot of armor, but what they are designed to do is just blast things down with these missiles. They're the main reason they're there. Now, on the side here, we've got these two Molnir cannons. These are very important because they do very, very, very high damage, though they do have a little bit of a high flux cost to fire, but this thing has really deep flux pockets as well. So it's got a lot of juice in there. Now, the rest of these are just heavy maulers, and yeah, 2 heavy maulers as well on top of that. This is a heavy burst laser. That's basically, it's sort of point defense. Then we've got regular burst lasers that all the way around, just to help out in keeping it missile defense, because this thing is a little bit chunky and you got to worry about fighters and missiles. By and large, this thing's main damage, missiles, missiles, and more missiles. In fact, we'll cover the data on that in a minute. When it comes to the captain, what I like to do is I like to give them helmsmanship so they can get into and out of trouble just that little bit faster. Otherwise, they have a tendency to get mobbed if you're not careful. Target analysis just to increase their damage. Ballistic so that their weapons can actually get some hits in. Missile specialization is the #1 most important stat. Plus 100% missile ammo capacity, plus 50% of missile hit points. As well as that, if you go in here, you can make them elite. Now, this will cost you a story point, but making missile specialization elite is pretty much a no-brainer. It increases the rate of fire of your missiles by 50%. Meaning you don't no longer have 2 missile launchers, you effectively have 3 because of it. And it also increases the damage dealt by the missiles by 10%. This is effectively allowing you to output over 60% more damage from your missile launchers. It's kind of insane. Ordnance as well, plus 2 flux capacity for every point you spend on weapons. It's not amazing, and I even stuck it up to elite so I could get an extra bit of flux capacity from every ordnance point spent on weapons as well. This just means it's a very deep pool of flux this thing has going for it. I did not build any hull mods in. You can build in hull mods, as in you can make these things permanent using a story point, and it will remove the OP cost from them, freeing up OP costs to put in other stuff. I wanted to keep these ships basically vanilla so that you could build them and then toss them later if you don't like them, so you could at least try out the build. Oh, these captains are found in bars all across the place. Every single planet you go to, you should stop in the bar and see if they have people that you can hire. You're going to be looking for people who have the stats you're interested in. They'll normally only have 1 or 2 to start, and then what you want to do is you want to mentor them. In other words, the moment you hire them, come in here and there'll be a little mentor button below them, and that'll allow you to control what stats they pick up as they go along, and you can custom build them. I usually like to have 2 designed for the champions so that they can have missile specialization. The rest are all designed to be going into eradicators. This gives you a nice, stable build as far as I can tell. There are only 4 planets that sell the eradicators you're looking for. Basically, Canaan and Eos Exodus. These are 2 sectors down here that contain a lot of church bases. So there's Tartarus, Hesperus, Gilead, and Asher. Just pop by, check them out. They should have them, or they might even have them on the black market. Any ones you find in the rest of the place will all be usually pirate versions, I'm afraid. As for the conquests, they can be a little bit more tricky to acquire. You can actually find them out on the rim, but more than likely the easiest way to get your hands on them would actually be bounties. I know that sounds a bit crazy. My way of scaling up was I would find bounties like this that contained atlases. Atlas Mark IIs are very similar in many ways, and I'd integrate a couple of Atlas Mark IIs into the fleet, and then I'd use those to sort of catapult myself up to taking on fleets with conquests in them, and then capture the conquest there, and then use those conquests in the next fleet. This is the Atlas I used to start going around killing conquests. It's Hurricane Mirv Launcher, Squall LMRS, weapons groups, same again, and then I basically equipped it mostly with railguns. This thing will do just fine. Integrated Target Unit, Expanded Missile Racks, ECM package. It's effectively a light conquest. It won't send up to much, but it should be able to nab you a few conquests so that you can refit them and include them into your fleet. The moment you start running with conquest, though, you're going to need to pick up a couple of oxes. Otherwise, your speed will cap out at 18. And it's much better to be able to travel at 20 speed in hyperspace so you can get to those bounties as quickly as possible. Quick thing to put on them is put in an insulated engine assembly. Cuts down on the amount of sensor profile they give. Otherwise, you're going to be attracting an awful lot of attention. It's just one of those little things you should do. Finally, what do you do if you can't get the weapons you're looking for? Maybe you can't find the Vulcan cannons, or you can't find enough railguns. Actually, they were a bit hard to find. Hypervelocity drivers, maulers, whatever weapons you're looking for. The Squall missile launchers. If you cannot get those, your best bet, start traveling to all the planets and go into the bars. Every single bar you go to, just take a shuttle down and visit the dockside bar. You're looking for an arms dealer. You will find an arms dealer and they will sell you literally any gun in the game. You just have to wait 60 days. They will literally sell you anything that's available. They have the blueprints for every single ship. Do you want a Phantom, a Paragon, anything like that? The only limits are, 1, you can only buy $1 million worth at a time. 2, it takes them 60 days to get it to you. And 3, well, they double charge you for everything. So you'll pay twice as much, but you can literally buy anything. Any weapons you want, Tachyon Lances, the lot. They've got all of them. You wait 60 days and then they will drop it off of that particular building. If you've forgotten what building you left it at or what planet you found them on, that's okay. Just go into your Intel, go under, go into command, go under income, and you'll be able to see, like down here, I actually bought a few ships off an arms dealer, and they're currently in storage at Yesod. So I have to go to Yesod to pick them up. Just to be extra clear here, you do not need the blueprints to be able to buy what you're trying to buy off the arms dealer. For example, under high tech here, I do not have the option to buy the Phantom cloaked troop transport. I don't have the blueprints for it. However, I was able to purchase those from the arms dealer, and I can now go along and collect them. You need to go in, go to storage, and go to take, and here you can see I can pick up my 3 Phantoms that I ordered a while back. Perfect. So that's how you can get whatever weapons and ships you need so that you can bounty hunt. And then at that point, honestly, you can make just so much money. There's 358 grand just sitting out there. And we've butchered fleets like that just constantly. There's another 200 grand. It's good to wait until a couple of them show up in one area, though. It seems to be a bit of some pirate bases as well. You can kill them. Your fleets will be able to take out pirate bases, no problem. Maybe stay away from the Remnant for now. Not quite sure how it'll work out with the Remnant. All right, apologies. This episode sort of accidentally turned into a tutorial on how to bounty hunt, but I've got a plan for the next episode. This is a hegemony. This is a hegemony base called Chimekchikafwak, whatever. This place has a pristine nanoforge. Increases ship and weapon production quality by 50% and increases heavy industry production by 3 units. This is an excellent piece of kit. We were hoping to find a few of these out on the rim. Unfortunately, we didn't. So next episode, we're going to nick theirs. Also, they've got a fullerene spool I'd like to nick as well. I think they might have some other fuel stuff. You know what? I'll figure out what we want to nick from them, and we're going to steal all of their nice fancy stuff. It'll also cripple their side a little bit, which will be nice. Anyway, apologies again that this sort of turned into a tutorial. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck.